Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you along today. Arizona Game and Fish's Shelly Shepherd is in studio today for, I guess, that'd be our first quarterly report from you for this year.
Yep, new year.
So welcome into studio again.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Let's get into it right away. I know we had a meeting recently. There's been a couple of meetings this month in regards to the Northern Arizona shooting range, and we talked to you last time about that. You were here, and so let's kind of get an update on that. First, let's refresh everybody's memory as to just where this is proposed to take place.
Yep. Well, a lot of people that are familiar with the Northern Arizona shooting range scenario probably are very aware of the fact that it's been a long, long time for us to try to find a parcel of land to actually start.
Many years.
Many years. We're talking close to 15 years in the efforts to try to find a location for a shooting range. We've had a couple of locations that were very, very close to getting through and moving the process forward, and those fell through. And our most recent purchase has been the Foster Ranch property, which is east of Flagstaff. And that's the site that we are...
How far east of Flagstaff?
Foster Ranch, well, it's at the Winona exit, which is not that far out of Flagstaff at all. I think maybe 12 miles or so. Okay. And then when you get off the freeway at the Winona exit, you just have to travel on some of the dirt roads that exist out there for just a few miles. And so it's it's a convenient location, really. And that's what we were trying to accomplish, because when we did a survey of shooters and folks that may participate in hunting, they wanted something or to see something within 30 minutes from town. So this is a great convenient location.
Now, right now, if I want to go to a shooting range, actual shooting range, where do I have to go for one? Living up in this area. I'm thinking Phoenix.
There's Ben Avery Shooting Facility is the biggest one, and of course that's in Phoenix. There are some smaller ranges around the state that may be getting, they may be owned by us but operated by other groups, sportsmen's groups. And honestly, around the Verde Valley area, I'm not sure where there's some established ranges. And of course, once you start moving north, we don't have anything. Sedona has a range, but that's primarily for the police department and any other law enforcement that needs to use it. So, you know, if you're talking a big range, Ben Avery is the biggest one that we have in the state. Okay.
So this one is not going to be just for the public. I mean, we're talking people like you.
Right, yep.
Law enforcement?
There's going to be so many people using this range. We're talking hunter education, not only for classes, but the field days that have to take place where people actually have to shoot. Archery activities are going to take place, trap and skeet. And then, of course, just a typical range for people to come out and sight in their pistols or their rifles or whatever they may have. The thing about this range is the property is only about 160 acres, so it's not going to be a huge range like Ben Avery, not at all. It won't have the capacity. But we're hoping to provide enough ranges for people to take part in those activities you and I just talked about. And you know, everybody knows that it is needed in Northern Arizona. You know, currently we're looking at some groups that are not too happy about the location.
I was going to say, okay, that's all by Walnut Canyon.
It is.
It's just beyond Walnut Canyon, but
it's sort of southeast of the Walnut Canyon National Monument. That's roughly where it's located. And on our website, we have all of the maps, so people that are kind of curious, well, how close is it and whatnot, they can look on our website and see the map.
Do we have any diagrams or anything of that nature that's on Game and Fish's website now as to what the proposed shooting range is going to look like? And
on the website, like I just mentioned, tons of information. On there, we do have 2 diagrams of potential what it's going to look like on the ground, I guess. And the reason it is not A or B, and that's the only 2 things we're looking at, but we wanted to give people an idea of what a range like this is going to look like. How many actual shooting ranges are there within the whole property, and how the layout potentially could look. And the thing about shooting ranges is when you're developing a range, you actually do take into consideration which direction you are shooting, potentially which direction does the wind blow for the majority of the time of the year at the range.
Southwest.
Pretty much, yeah, because we're going to be shooting in a northeasterly direction, and also the sun factor. You know, what's going to be the best for the people that are out there shooting, as far as the sun goes. So the conceptual designs are just to give people an idea of what may be out there. But we've been getting a lot of input from the public. Law enforcement has made a few comments about where that particular range was going to be. You know, a facility, a building for that, a building and several buildings maybe for hunter education courses and places, you know, buildings to teach classes, other classes as well.
So where are we at with it right now?
Well, yeah, to let folks know, the department has purchased this property, so it is a private parcel, so we are moving forward to get a range built out there by 2013. That is the overall goal.
Not till 2013.
Well, as far as really established building structures, that kind of thing, you know, if we can get out sooner to be doing some shooting activities, we'll certainly try. But part of what you need to do when you're doing a shooting range, of course, there's a lot of excavating that has to be done. We have to build the safety berms and the shooting berms, the structures where people will shoot under, which will also mitigate a lot of the sound. But the overall goal was 2013. The commission had a couple of guidelines that they wanted to see happen with this particular range.
Okay, so when in 2013? Are we talking early, middle, late?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal right now is just looking at 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have been some of the comments as opposed to having?
The major thing, two major things. The biggest one that a lot of people are probably hearing about if they've been following in our local paper up in Flagstaff, is the sound, is the noise, and there's kind of a few things to look at. Is how much shooting is actually going to be taking place every single day and for how many hours, and then the decibel level. And we have to do a sound study out at a shooting range, and we've already conducted that sound study prior to any kind of construction or building any sort of sound mitigation. And a lot of those levels, in fact, I think all of them were under what the guidelines require. So sound study's been done.
When you do a sound study like that, where do you go to the nearest home in that area or the nearest residential? How do you decide?
First off is that we actually had a private contractor come in and put everything together and organize the entire sound study, because that's what they do. For that particular site, what we did is we had 7 different locations with staff and a representative from the company with the sound meter and reading all the readings. And then what we did is we had different calibers of firearms shooting from where the potential shooting ranges are going to take place. And then it all has to be timed and count down, because then you have to just sit and wait for that firearm to, you know, be shot. And we did the 7 locations 3 times, several times in the morning, and then the afternoon, and then late afternoon, about 4 or 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And that's roughly kind of how you would do a sound study. And all of that information, then our contractor took all that information and did the final report for us.
Are we at the point now where we're designing and saying, okay, this is how it's going to be, these are the buildings that are going to go there? Or are we still taking public comment on this?
Well, and that's the thing too, is we're still looking at all of that. The biggest thing right now is what has to be done on the ground. Some road improvements, getting the berms going.
So we are at almost the construction stage.
We're almost at the construction stage, yeah. And the thing about Flagstaff right now, since it is January, you know, you're limited on how much you're going to be able to do up there. But there's still a lot of things that has to kind of come into play as far as construction goes. And you bring a good point. You said public comment. This has been a different process that I think has kind of thrown everybody off a little bit, because all of the other sites that we looked at over the last 15 years have pretty much been on some kind of public land. And when you're going to do an activity like this, build a range, there is a huge public process, public comment process, and many, many steps. And then when you're looking at us now on a private parcel, there's a lot of those things we don't have to do. We don't have to put public, put it out for public comment for a certain amount of time or anything like that.
Okay.
So I think that kind of threw a lot of people off. We did have an open house in September of 2010 where the public could come in, give us comments, look at the conceptual designs, and we got a lot of good feedback. And in fact, it was a really successful open house. We had over 80 people that stopped in to show support or comment about what things could potentially look like out at the range.
Do we have a final conceptual drawing of it?
No, we don't.
Okay. Do we know when that will be available?
I don't know, actually. I think that's a little far out still.
Okay.
There's still a lot of groundwork that still needs to be done. We're doing some fence removal right now. I know that land excavating is going to be another biggie. And you had asked what other big things, besides the sound issues that are going on and the closeness to Walnut Canyon, there is a little bit of talk about the road and that the traffic flow may increase, and we're going to see what we can do about that too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, lots going on with it.
Yeah, let's take our first break. Arizona Game and Fish's Shelly Shepherd in studio today. I'm Paul David. Stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.